Thank you for being here. It's awesome to have you stopping by the Man That Can Project podcast and my YouTube channel now. So many of you have not hit the subscribe button. You're coming across the page via the reels or you're searching for the episodes. But if you do not want to miss an episode and you want to make me extremely pumped because we've got another one of you incredible legends joining our community, joining the Man That Can community, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the more subscribers we get, as you are well aware of, the better guests we can bring on the show to help you achieve peak performance in the areas that matter, right? The health, the wealth, and the relationships. So thank you for stopping by, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. And today, the episode is going to be another absolute belter. I hope you enjoy it. We will chat during the show. Welcome to episode 513 of the Man That Can Project podcast, the ultimate guide for unlocking your full potential of the mind and body. Today, very, very exciting guest, one that I know the topics we'll be talking about keep a lot of men awake at night, and that's relationships. One of the biggest reasons why men unfortunately take their life by suicide is relationship breakdowns and not understanding how to navigate emotions and what can deliver a healthy relationship. So today we've got Australia's #1 relationship expert, because I believe if we can learn the ins and outs and then put our, walk the talk, we can do our best to have the most successful relationships going. And we want to have those relationships that stand the test of time. So Dr. Love, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Lachlan. Thanks for having me.
It's even, we were just talking off air. You've just got out of hospital.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for when you were telling me all the stuff that was going on. I was like, do you want to reschedule? Because there's a whole heap of stuff going on. So thank you for giving your time. Yeah. You said, obviously, you live and breathe this. So it's even more of a privilege to have you on.
Thanks for having me. Seriously, relationships. And I think this is my little contribution. It's been my little baby around. You don't realize the impact the relationships have on so many people. I think we just totally become complacent around the relationships that we have in our lives until they break down and we realize how much they actually impact us.
It's crazy. Why do you think we are so oblivious, I guess, to the weight that a relationship can hold?
It's exactly that. We become very comfortable and we almost take it for granted, like it's always going to be there. Like it's just, a piece of furniture that's sitting there and you just expect it to be there every single time you come home, and it doesn't need anything done to it. The chair's going to be there in the dining room the minute you get home, or when you leave, and, you can lock up, and that's sort of what we think about our relationships. Unfortunately, what happens is that we get to a point in those relationships where the chair no longer standing, and it needs some like polishing or some looking after. And it's not until, something starts to break down, we go, shit, like what have I done or what haven't I done for it to be at this stage?
It's one of the biggest reasons why men reach out to me is they'll come and they'll go, man, my relationship's done. I've tried everything to get it back. I'm like, well, it's not just now that the issue became a real issue. It's been the weeks, months, years in the lead up where you've neglected certain things, you haven't communicated well, all of those sorts of things. What would be some warning signs for the average person to look out for?
There's a couple of things. I think what you were saying is quite evident in some of the people that I see. So what happens is we'll go with a scenario that's very monogamous, male-female relationship. We'll just use that as an example for, the episode. I'll get a woman that comes and says to me, I've been telling him for the last 5 years there's an issue. And the man hasn't been listening. He's not hearing me. He's not listening. He thinks I'm being a nagger. He thinks that I'm over exaggerating. Unfortunately, she's had to get to the point over 5 years to exaggerate how she was feeling 5 years prior, because when she was trying to communicate, there was no active listening. There was a communication breakdown. And so I often see is that in relationships, and I know we hear it all the time, but communication, like it is never ending, and you never, ever, ever stop learning how to communicate. You don't ever communicate the same way forever. Communication is cyclical. Like you will communicate in a particular way as a teenager, going through your early 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Like it is a different form of communication. And so you can't become complacent with communication, because everyone changes the way they receive information in different times of their lives. And I would say that is one of the things that show up continuously, whether the aftermath of having bad communication or not communicating well is infidelity, not being available, all the other things that happen. Communication, if it was there and you were listening and you were showing up for each other, some of the other stuff wouldn't happen.
How do we work out what, I guess, how to effectively communicate to our partner, or even understand the way that we would prefer to be communicated, and especially in those different phases of life? Because one of the big challenges I personally went through was I wasn't able to articulate how I felt for a very long time. And I saw that built up resentment. I also got frustrated, and I would almost snap because I couldn't just say how I wanted to, or what I wanted, or what I needed, or what I desired.
Yeah. And I find that, and I think we've had a quite a brief conversation around that whole alpha male, that type of man that is quite masculine, wants to have a female or a partner in their life, but can't articulate how they're feeling. Like, they have all of these emotions. How do I translate this feeling in my body that sits in my physiology to words? Like, it doesn't, and when you put it in words, it's not supposed to sound that way.
Yes. Yeah.
It's difficult because you've got, and the reason why you guys haven't had practice, like you haven't had practice in doing that. It's a new language. You guys communicated through physiology, body, short sentences, and that got you by, until you are then with, let's say, a woman that can't get by with short sentences and just physiology, and there's so much more depth. And they want to know why all the time, and they want to know the reasons and tell me more. They're curious. They want to know why you're thinking like that, why you're feeling like that, because that's how internally they're wondering why they feel like that as well. So they want to know why, and you don't know why you feel like that. You go, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I feel like this. I just do. That's, it's not enough. So what happens is that with communication, it's practice. But a man can't show up and communicate and practice communication if the woman doesn't allow him. And this is where the breakdown also happens. Okay, so we're very quick to say men don't communicate. We also need to stand up and say, do women give them space to communicate and make the mistake in their communication and have them practice to be better at it?
That is a huge point. Huge point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I know, I hear it all the time, men aren't good communicators. That's bullshit. That's not true. Men haven't been given the opportunity to communicate in most instances. So when you are showing up for a man as a woman, and when a man is showing up for a woman as a man, and they create space, that partner that they're with is not going to be perfect in how they show up. But let them come imperfectly to you. Let them come imperfect in their type of communication, and help them. Help them. If they need to satisfy you in a form of communication style, help them get there, because it's not in their nature. And I think that is mainly the key to having longevity in your relationships. Like, are you showing up for each other? Are you helping each other to fill each other's needs? It's not, this is your job and you must show up and be able to do it perfectly, because that's ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
Do you feel that the influence of like these movies, just straight away The Notebook comes to mind, because it's like the OG of love movies, where you see these you see these romantic movies where they're super passionate, they fight, but they just never really show how they fix the problem. It's just like you kiss, make up, and that's it. But you never see in movies where it's like, hey, let's work out how to communicate what you want and help you share how you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
And let's bounce off each other with that.
Yeah, we've grown up, with a Cinderella story. We've grown up, Disney's run the narrative for how many years? We grew up in Disney, and it was just, there's still an element of, it's really nice to have a sense of masculinity and femininity in a relationship. And I know gender roles are quite stereotypical, but there is also some type of nature nurture, some type of physiology that happens in a relationship that we come to a relationship equally, but we also come equally in our own right. There's a lot of things that you as a man can do that I don't want to do, or women can do and men can't do, but it doesn't mean we're not equal. It means we distribute equally in different ways. I think we've been unfair to men in relationships because they've also had to catch up on how relationships shift. If we look at how our parents did relationships, the guy worked and he came home and the house was looked after. It's quite traditional, pretty easy because everyone knew their roles. There was no one was confused. Yeah. No one knew what they could and couldn't do. It was pretty easy. And so what we've found is that since those times till now, this is where we've seen the divorce rates just go crazy because no one really knows their place in a relationship unless they talk about it. And this is why we need to talk about our relationship because, you and your partner will have a relationship, Lachlan, and it will look totally different to mine. But as long as they're your relationship rules and it suits you, that's okay. Whereas 50, 60 years ago, most relationships look the same.
Yep. I still feel there is that societal pressure to have your relationship a certain way, and people look in or make past comment. It's like, why on earth is that happening? And it's like, and I cop it a lot. I have over the year, even with our move to the US, everyone's like, you're going to be this stay-at-home husband. I'm like, I run my own business and fuck off with those comments. Like Amy and my relationship's unique. She has her career. I have my career. We support each other. We do all that and it works for us. But some people don't like that. And
people don't like it because they don't know they wouldn't know how to navigate it. People don't like what they don't know, right?
And really it's not, I think one thing that I've learned is it doesn't really matter what other people think as long as my relationship's healthy and it's feeling like we're loving it. That's all that matters. And I really hope, because once again, coming back to majority of the audience listening, they still are bound to those traditional styles of relationships. And things are evolving quite quickly. As you've mentioned there, the roles in relationships are changing and every relationship's different. Every couple's individual is different. But if we don't learn to communicate what our wants are, what our expectations are, all we're going to do is grow apart.
Yeah, exactly. And Lachlan, through your own experience, you said, you went through a period where, you wanted to communicate and you didn't, and it got all bottled up and it just came out as frustration and probably all the wrong words and could have even been taken as quite aggressive. So you're like, why are you getting so angry? Like, why are you such an angry person? Like, just tell me how you're feeling, and you can't, right? And so what happened for you? Like what helped you transition into being able to talk, being able to speak about what you're feeling? What was the turning point for you?
It was recognizing that I was about to blow the relationship up again. A guy said to me at the pub, so we all have I believe a lot of people have these like moments where we should take note, but we don't. And I got kicked out of a cab in Thailand in front of Amy's family. And I was like, probably need to sort this out. And then we were at a pub a couple of weeks later, and this dude at the pub said to me, because we were talking about, I can't remember the specific conversation, but my response was, that's fucking fucked. And this gentleman goes, how about you just learn to tell me what you really feel rather than using those words, because I have no idea what you're going on about. And that was the first time the penny dropped, and I was like, I don't communicate well. Like, I feel like I'm getting my point across, but I'm just using swear words or chunk words to say what I wanted to say. And then I recognized that was happening in my relationship. I realized that when Amy might say, oh, you're such an angry person, I would go, I'm not. I'm frustrated that I can't tell you how I feel. And rather than me projecting that, I was like, I just need to learn how to tell you how I feel, and let's Google that. And that was the process. And I'm so much better, but I still have a lot of work to do. And I still, even was saying to Amy like 2 days ago when I was telling her about this podcast, I'm like, I'm so grateful that her and I communicate so well, to the point where we're always going back to what you said, we're helping each other navigate who we are and what we want and how we want to communicate in these different phases, which is cool.
Yeah. I think what happens is that when you don't communicate well, and you would have found this in your past, is that you're almost, it's not bullying, but you're almost pushing your way through life. You're almost pushing your way through the situation rather than doing this sort of dance and making it work. And it's exhausting. It's actually exhausting for you guys. You don't realize, but you're carrying this big load of like emotions that you don't talk about, or things that are just sitting there, and you're just pulling through life. You know, you have to do work, you've got to provide, you've got to pay the bills, you've got to do the family, you've got to still be with the boys, you've got to train, and you're just, you know, rugging through life. But communication, there's an element of relief to that. But it does depend on the partner you're with. I will say that a lot, because if your partner's not going to give you space, like I know you were saying just about Amy, like she'll show up and you'll show up and you'll work through it. If your partner is not going to give you space or show up for you and hold space for you to get it wrong and then get it right, how do you make it work?
Very challenging. And I feel that's where I used to build up resentment with ex-partners, was because I never had that space. And as you were saying, the roles that I was trying to fulfill, just from what I'd adopted, it wasn't even, hey, you need to do this. I just felt I had to do that, where it was, I need to provide, I need to protect, this should be done. All these expectations that I had that I was projecting that we never discussed. So when I would come home, one, I didn't have the balls to communicate it, because I don't like conflict. I tried to avoid that because I would snap and I'd say something that I'd regret.
Yeah, of course.
And then that made me bitter. I'd come home pissed off, and nothing had even happened, but I'm just like, oh, it's good for you because you've been sitting there all day. I'm like, that's not healthy.
Yeah. Well, that's the resentment. Resentment eats at relationships, in every part of your relationship. Like if I have couples come and see me, or if I'm working with people and they're not having sex, I know there's a resentment there for sure.
Can we talk about that? Because I wanted to talk about that, because I've read a number of your blog posts, and for anyone listening, I'll have the link to the blog post. You write really, really well, and it's just I found it very easy to digest. It was like you're in my head, essentially. It's like the roadmap for what's going on in Lockie's head. But the sexual intimacy and the link with resentment. I know a lot of men experience resentment because they do feel they are out at work all day and their wife may be at home looking after, doing, once again, no role is better or worse. It's like they're just different. And it's a team. It's a team. We need to look at it from a teamwork perspective, but resentment builds on both sides, and the sexual intimacy stops. And you start becoming mates.
Yeah, well, and maybe not even, people. It depends on how bad the resentment is. But, sometimes you're not even mates. You can't even have a nice conversation. It's like, who are we? We're like two strangers living in a house, whereas before there was a point where we chose to live together because we loved each other or we were good together. But you're right, resentment breeds disconnection, and it's on both parts. It's both male and female, and it comes from not communicating, Lachlan. It comes from not actually listening to each other. That's where it comes from, because if you think back, coming home and being angry, and you're saying there was nothing you were really angry about, what was really the underlying issue? The underlying issue may have been that you didn't feel good as a man in that relationship, or you didn't feel valued, or you didn't feel worthy enough, or there was all these underlying issues of resentment that happen. And that would be on the woman's part as well. If she's quite resentful, I don't feel valued as a woman. I don't feel like what I'm doing here at home is enough, or he doesn't notice what I'm doing. It's all about him. And it's all this comparison stuff. Resentment can't breed when you are valuing each other and what you bring to the table. So, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether you go to work, you stay home and you look after the kids, or, Amy's at work and she's looking, whatever it is. If you value each other as human beings, not a picture of the person you developed in your head that doesn't exist. Okay.
The Disney movie.
The Disney movie, right? If you value the person as a human, if I wasn't dating this person, or if he was just someone I met, or he was a friend, would I treat him this way? No, I wouldn't. So don't treat your partner that way. Just because you're a partner, you don't get a free pass to treat them like shit, right? Because you think they're going to be a piece of furniture sitting at home for however long. It doesn't happen like that. You don't get a free pass like through. You don't do that. You always got to look at the relationship and say, what am I not doing? So when you're coming home feeling resentful, Lachlan, it's not what isn't Amy doing. It's what could I do better so that Amy feels valued, so she values me, right? This is how it works. Well, how do I show up better for her? Because if I soften her, a woman softens when they're valued, a woman softens when they're noticed, when they're appreciated. So when you soften her as a woman, she then comes and adores you as a man. Like, it just works. Not coming in and appreciating her and softening her as a woman. She's going to grow a set of balls. What does she need you for?
Exactly. It's interesting. I read a book, The Way of the Superior Man, which I found very eye-opening.
Yeah.
And once again, one of those books where it's like, oh, this is inside my head. And I also felt like I got a inside scoop into a female's head. And I thought about that. I was like, would I want to be intimate with me now based off how I'm showing up in the relationship? And majority of the time it's like, fuck no, you're lazy. You think you're adding value, yet which, yeah, you're out working. However, around the house, you're not doing a single thing. You're not picking your weight up. You're not doing these nice things that you once did in the dating phase of the relationship. It's all expectation now.
Yeah.
And that was a big kick up the ass for me. And then it also then allowed me to start asking, what are those next questions? What would allow me to, for example, make Amy feel valued or make her feel secure, or the things that she desires? And in the beginning, it was like, fuck, this is more work. But the results and the
less work.
The connection that we've got is just like phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it felt anything like it from previous relationships.
Yeah. It's so much harder to be resentful and angry than to just put in the effort and be really happy.
Yep.
And people go like, I do so much already. I don't want to do that. But what are you doing? You're going to work. You're exhausted about the conversations you're having in your head because you're actually not physically doing anything because you're not having the conversations with her. So I don't know where you're exhausted. And if you just gave that little bit that you needed to your partner, you might find that little bit is going to get you this much, right? It's not much. But people don't want to go the extra 2 miles. They think it's 2 miles. It's not that. Just go an inch. It will get you a mile. It doesn't take much. You lean in. What do they need from me? Why is she resentful? Why is she being passive aggressive? What can I do to soften her? What is she needing from me?
What would be a way to find that out? Because I've found myself in situations before where I'm like, what can I do to help? Or do you need anything? Or what's up? And the feedback's like, no, I'm good. It's okay. And I'm like, okay. Or even the classic joke is like, what do you want for your birthday? No, I'm fine. And you don't get anything. And then it's like, you fucked up. How do we...
guys, you never ask your girl what she wants for her birthday. Just go get her something. She's always going to say, oh, I think I'm fine. It's bullshit. We always want something. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got to work out, okay, why don't you go find out what each other's love languages are first? Okay. That's going to be really important. So if her love language is acts of service and your love language is physical touch, and you're not doing anything around the house that is acts of service, so you're not putting the bins out, or you're not, when you think of acts of service, it's like, what are you doing to make her life easier? Have you picked up the mail? Did you take the bins out? Did you get the kids? Did you do something around the house? Did you run an errand for work? Whatever. Did you do something that made her life easier? Do a few of those things. If that's her acts of service, she's going to soften. She's going to feel like you're loving her without even telling her, right? But what happens if you have a love language that is, physical touch, and you need physical touch and sexual connection to feel loved? You're not going to get any of that because you're not doing acts of services. She's going to go, he doesn't love me, he's getting nothing. And so this thing happens of, they hold out on sex, and the guys are like, she doesn't want to have sex. I'm going to having sex here because she doesn't feel loved because you didn't take the bins out. But it's only the bins. But that's to you. It's only the bins. To her, it's a whole love language, right? So the easiest way for a bloke to work this out is just figure out what your love languages are, because it's in black and white. It's going to tell you what to do. Don't make it hard.
And it's generally the way that they give love. Like I noticed for a long time, Amy would always bring me gifts, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't care
Why
for
shouldn't you know?
gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like 4
The
years
love
in, I'm
language.
like, she wants gifts.
Right. Because she's loving you how she wants to be loved.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
I recognize
So
that late.
when you reckon, and this is a good tip for the guys that haven't gone down this road yet, it's if your partner is doing things and you're like, it's not really meaningful to you, but it is to them, it's giving you insight into maybe, hang on a minute, that's how she wants to be loved. That's why she's doing it to me, because that's her form of connection. But the easiest way is to just go on and jump online and do the test and work out what your love languages are. And there is a book dedicated to men that is just on the love languages, and it's the easiest audio book to listen to in the car or something. Just download it on Audible and listen to it when you're driving to work or coming home. I think it's only 4 hours, and it will give you the whole rundown of the book in literally a snapshot. And it's, I don't want to say it's dumbed down, but it's menified.
It's magnified. Easy to digest. The way that makes sense.
It's just got the important bits. Don't worry about the fluff. So the point gets across really quickly. So I would be downloading that book. If I was a bloke and I wasn't sure, I'd be downloading that book. I'd listen to it, and then I'd work out what love language I am and what my partner's is, and I'd start to love that way. I would start to give love to them the way they need to receive it, not the way that you need to receive it, because it could be totally different.
And that's just the power. Like for me, it's taking responsibility about what I can control in the relationship, because I've also experienced and seen where people are like, no, I've tried something before, so it's her turn. It's like, stop playing this tit for tat bullshit. If you want it to work, take control of it, which means continue to upskill, learn the language, learn to communicate better, whatever it may be. What are your thoughts around like the nice guy thing? So obviously we've spoken a lot about our relationships and communication and really trying to get men to open up and connect better. Then we've got the flip side of that, where it's almost like being too dependent and being that nice guy where it's like they'll do everything. They're like a little puppy that's like, yes. How does that impact a relationship?
It goes the opposite way, actually.
Yep.
So it impacts the relationship. What actually ends up happening is the woman starts to lose respect for the man. That's actually, in the end of when I see them coming, she has no respect for him whatsoever, because he's not a person. He's just totally a yes person. He's a people pleaser. And so what happens with people pleaser, men or women, it doesn't matter. But if you've gone down that road of being a people pleaser, people take advantage of you. And you lose substance. You're really not your own person anymore. You're the person that, they've created. They've molded you into something that they want. And you know what? It's just like a little toy. They get bored of you and they're on to the next thing. Okay. So there's a flip side around this. A lot of the yes men, unfortunately, are the ones that get treated badly. And this is where that narrative comes out, what the good guys finish last.
Yep.
It's not that the good guys finish last. It's probably the people-pleasing guys that finish last, because we see things like women being bored, there's infidelity on the woman's behalf. They end up being married to their business or their work or their career. There's a lack of respect. There's a power dynamic issue. So, we hear a lot of those words usually when it's around the man, right? There's a man, there's infidelity, there's a power dynamic. But on the flip side, it's the same thing. You have a man show up that isn't true to his masculinity, and he finds himself with a woman that's quite strong. She's carrying the balls in that relationship, and that relationship does not last. It does not last, and he becomes a shell of a person.
So it's really one thing I struggle with, or I feel is also something. Big jets are going over the house or something at the moment. Wow. But something that is challenging in society at the moment, there's a big push on men being controlling and dominating and all of that sort of stuff. So I found myself in situations, and I'm very aware of it. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Where I'll be even just walking down the street and a lady's 10 meters in front. I'll cross the road sometimes because I don't want to feel like I'm like scaring her or anything like that. Wow. And even in the relation, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then The same thing in relationships. In the beginning of the relationship with Amy and myself, before we worked through a lot of stuff, I found myself just being like, yep, I'll support whatever you want to do, rather than sort of enforcing some boundaries around expectations that I had, because I didn't want to be a controlling bloke. I didn't want to be that guy that where she'd go to her friend and say, no, Lockie doesn't let me do this. It's like, I don't care what you do, but so how do we find the line there?
Yeah. You know, when someone's into you, Lockie, and they respect you, the boundaries are no problem. They're not an issue. They actually want, those boundaries are there without you even saying it. I've seen a lot of things come up online of late of men dating women that are Instagram models and are out on social media, and they're quite, you know, they're beautiful looking, and they're doing posts, and they're in bikinis and G-strings, and they've got fans only or OnlyFans pages and stuff like that, which is fine.
Yeah. Yep.
But then their partner is crucified when they're looking online at other women, or they like other women's posts. And there's been some interviews around them saying to the woman, but how is he in trouble, or how is he pushing the boundaries, or how is he not being respectful to you when you're also doing all of this on the other side? And it's a really difficult dance. So if they haven't had those if they haven't put those boundaries up initially, someone's going to get hurt, because they go in with the assumption, like you went in and said, I have these sort of boundaries. I'm uncomfortable with some things, but I don't want to say it because I don't want her to think I'm like jealous or controlling or insecure. So I just won't say anything, because not yet anyway. Right? Not yet. It's too early, or I'm not sure if I'm able to say this. Like, I don't know if there's a time when you actually can say that.
Yeah.
Or I think early on, like if you think you're going to be with someone, just say, like, this actually makes me feel uncomfortable. And it's not because I'm jealous, and it's not because I, am insecure. It's because I love you. It's because, I do want you to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honor our relationship, and I want to keep it sacred, and I don't like to share. Like, it's okay to say that, you know. It's okay. And I think men are finding this very difficult right now, is how much can I say before I'm judged and being told that I'm insecure, or, you know, you're not a man, you can't handle that. Like, it's a really fine dance. I'm like, when did that conversation happen? No real man wants anyone else to be with their woman. It's that simple. No man wants the woman on display for everyone to just have a piece of, and they get the leftovers at home. No one wants that in a relationship. I don't care how many Instagram followers you have. It's going to create dramas in your relationship. So I think what needs to happen is that with those conversations, Lachlan, is that you have them straight up. You do have them straight up. You just say, look, these are my boundaries around relationships. Because what happens if you do this relationship for 6 months and then tell them, and they go, well, I can't meet that expectation. I don't want to do this. And you've wasted 6 months. Right? This is where values come in. This is where, you know, life goals come in. Are you guys on the same path? Like, are you guys even compatible? Why are you going to wait 9 months before you have those conversations? Just have them straight up. It gets easier as you get older, because you're like, yeah, I don't want to fuck around. You know, when you're 20, 19, it's a bit different. You're still working it out. You know, anything over 35, I reckon that you've got a free pass to go, hey, this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, you're definitely more clear on what it is that you want. So don't waste time. Just cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Save everyone's time. But that's, where it also ties into building that relationship with yourself and getting clear on what you want, what, as you mentioned, your values, your expectations, what life goals, all of that sort of stuff. Because people are in relationships where they are just staying there because they don't want to break up. It's like too hard to break up. And you're like, you guys are a mismatch, and you're holding back from the incredible life that's out there waiting for you, or the incredible relationships that are out there waiting for you.
Yeah, it's the thought of it. The thought of breaking up seems to be more painful than being in a relationship that's painful. Like, you've got to work it out. Like, you've got to weigh it up. Like, the pain you're in right now in this unhappy relationship, does it far outweigh the possibility of you finding love and being happy? You know, where's the pain sitting? Or is it that you may leave this painful and unhappy relationship and maybe never find a relationship after that, but you could still possibly be happy on your own? Like, you've got to be realistic about, hang on, where am I heading? But a lot of us become codependent in relationships, Lachlan. And I think that's what happens in relationships. There's this codependency, and this is where, like, people become quite dysfunctional in their pattern of the relationship. So they're relying on each other, whether one person's relying emotionally on someone, psychologically, physically. It really involves an unbalanced or unhealthy dynamic in the relationship. And one becomes overly dependent on the other person. And that's where we see a lot of unhealthy, sometimes toxic relationships coming up. And that's why they stay in them, is because there's this codependency thing happening.
Do you feel it's important then to have like weekends away with your mates, to have hobbies that don't involve your partner all the time?
Absolutely, because you still want to be you. Like, you know, you don't really want to be in a relationship with, I mean, some people might, it doesn't work, but like a mirror image of you, because that's what happens when you stop to hang out with the boys, when you stop going with the boys, when you stop going, you know, camping or surfing, or you don't have that bonding time with the boys, you then almost become a mirror image of your partner. You're just doing whatever they want. You're becoming a yes person. You're becoming like, just really, you're going to lose your personality. And then that's when they lose respect for you. Like, you really have to have boundaries. Hey, this is important for me. This is who I am. This fills me up. It makes me happy. If your partner loves you, they would be saying, babe, you need to go. Even when you say, I can't be bothered, they're going to be encouraging you. You need to go. You need to have that time. Get the hell out of the house.
It's so true. It leads into, like, I guess, let's just call it addiction for the easiest word to describe it. But the same with work or relationship. If you become too dependent on something and you sacrifice, you know, hobbies, time with mates, your health, and you do have a relationship breakdown. And it's why so many men struggle. Like, people think it's the ladies that are gonna, or the women that are gonna struggle most in a relationship. The men just fucking lose it.
They do. They do.
Because quite often it's like we don't have our health in order. We don't know who the hell we are outside of the relationship. We also, on top of that, don't understand our emotions, and most of us can't articulate how we're feeling. So it's just like a blender of chaos in our head, and it becomes too much.
I have a soft spot for you blokes, because I see, like, the struggle that you have, because you guys can be so, like, black and white, like, just so easy. You're in a relationship, that's it. There's nothing more to it. And then it's like, when it's over, it's like, shit, what the hell just happened? You're like sometimes oblivious to, like, a whole marriage. You've been there for 20 years and it's gone in like 6. You think it's gone overnight. It's been diminishing for the last like 5 years, but overnight it's gone. And then what you don't understand is that these women have been already mourning the relationship while they're in the relationship. So they've been letting go for the last 5 years, right? The sex is gone, the intimacy is gone, the lack of communication. That's been happening for 3, 4, 5 years. Whereas you're still thinking that you're invested in this relationship, and she's just going through something, and she's, I don't know, hormonal, or she's having a hissy fit. She doesn't have a hissy fit for 5 years, guys. There's something going on. You guys aren't having sex once a week, once a fortnight at a minimum. There's an issue. If she's been tired for 5 years and you come home and she's like, oh, I'm tired, and that's been going on for 5 years, it's a red flag. Because a woman wants to be intimate with a man they're connected with. They don't not want to do that, because it makes them feel like a woman. So they've been telling you for that long, and then you think overnight your relationship's fallen apart. You think, hang on, they've gotten on with their lives really quickly. Well, it hasn't. They've just been mourning the relationship while they're in it. You guys mourn after. So you guys do what they did. You guys like mourn for 5 years after, or 4 years after, or 2 years after. Whereas they're moving on to a relationship, and you're thinking, she mustn't have loved me, because how quickly did she move on? No, buddy. She checked out 5 years ago or 4 years ago.
Never thought about it like that.
Yeah. So that's what happens. So you guys just do it after the relationship's ended. The woman's doing it while they're in the relationship.
So that's probably an area to look out for, right? If you're not having sex once to twice once weekly or fortnightly at the worst case scenario.
Whatever your normal is, like everyone's normal is different. Some is once a day, and then it goes to once a week, and they're like, hang on a minute, we were having sex once a day for like the last 7 years, and all of a sudden it's dropped to once a week if I'm lucky. There's something going on.
Yeah. And that's when you sort of go back and go, how is she feeling valued? Is she feeling secure? All whatever those things are in the love language stuff. So you'd sort of go back to that position to start.
Well, what about, so as a man, you reflect, go, hang on a minute, what's going on? What might be going on for her? Not why is she treating me like this? Not why is she being a bitch and holding out? Not that. What might be going on for her? Okay, we're going to look outside the box, like almost pick yourself up out of your body and look at the situation from the top and go, right, that's me, that's her. Why might she be feeling like that? What's been going on right now? You may not be able to articulate it, but you can work it out in your head. You can go, okay, this happened the other day. I wonder if that's impacting her. You need to then approach her and say, can we talk? I just want to hear what's going on for you. Don't speak, let her speak. Don't try and fix it. Let her talk. She will tell you if she needs you to do something with it. But let her tell you what's going on. I don't like how you did this. Sometimes it feels like shit when you feel attacked. Let her tell you what you feel, why she feels like shit. Just let her tell you. If you could do anything as a man is to stay there and let her and feel a little bit uncomfortable when she's telling you something that, you know, maybe you don't agree with, or maybe from your perspective you don't see it that way. But if you could just listen to her in that chaos moment that she's got and not react, she will start to trust you emotionally. When a woman trusts you emotionally, their body follows. Okay? When they don't trust you emotionally, shut down, body's here, like they're so separate from their emotions in their body. It's like we disassociate. It's like trust, lean in. Trust, lean. If I don't trust you, we're leaning out. Because if I can't trust you with my emotions, I'm not trusting you with my body.
Sounds so, it simplifies it, right? Like it gives me something to look at, what could be going on, and then what can I do to support or help to improve your situation, which will then ultimately improve the whole relationship.
Yeah, and you might think, oh God, that's ridiculous. Or, oh my God, I can't believe she thinks this whole big thing over this little transactional conversation, right? But if it's big for her, it's worth then, nipping it in the butt. Because how many big things need to be added on to what's going on for her before you go, oh, can I help you with that? And it's too late. She doesn't even know why she's upset. Anymore. There's so many big things that have happened that hasn't been rectified. Closure around these things are really important. That damages the relationship. Is that when you have an argument, a disagreement, there's a miscommunication and it's not dealt with, it's swept on the carpet, or you just kiss and make up and haven't spoken about it, that damages relationships. The conversation you should be having if you have an argument or something damaging has happened and it's created conflict, you should be sitting down, or you should be able to have a conversation and say, how can we not do that next time? What can we do different? I don't like how we were together right then. I don't like how I showed up. I was angry, aggressive. I never want to treat you like that. I don't like seeing you upset. What could we do different that we never have to do this again, so we can learn from this, because I don't like how this felt.
It's teamwork. Like the language that you're using, not I, it's we. It's like we're in this together.
Absolutely, because I need you to help me work out what I can do different. How can I show up for you? Because if I'm going to guess, I'm going to get it wrong every single time.
That's how it feels.
Right? That's how it feels for a bloke. Oh, I did that, but it was wrong. Or I said that wrong. Or like, just tell me how I need to show up so this never has to happen again, because I don't like how I felt. I don't like how we were disconnected. I don't like how we didn't cuddle last night. I don't like how we spoke to each other. I don't like how I saw you upset. How can we never do this again? And just every single time, what do we do different? How do we avoid this? How do we get better at this? It's not that you're never going to fight. You're going to fight. You're going to argue. You're going to disagree. How do you do it better next time?
And it's not about getting the win, because if you're trying to get the win, it's like both you lose, because you're now hated even more.
And I think, and that's a conversation that happens all the time. Is it worth losing a relationship just because you want to be right? And some people get so staunched and so stuck in, but I'm right. But I didn't do anything wrong. But I've said that from the beginning. I've always been right. He's not right. Okay, he's not right. It's fine. Maybe he's not right. But that's all he had access to. They're the resources he had at that moment. What are you going to do? You're either going to crucify him for the rest of the relationship because he was wrong, or you're going to say, think about it as a child. They make a mistake. Do you crucify them, or you say, hang on a minute, don't do it that way? And I'm not saying that men are like children, but it's the learning cycle, right? You make a mistake, you learn from it. You guys are learning a new language. You're learning to be with a new person in a relationship. We both need to be soft about this, and we both need to show up and go, right, what is it that I need to do that's better so that we can do this better together? Because I want to stay with you. I want to be with you. I don't want to do this again. So you can be right and be angry, or just show up together and work it out.
Yep.
That's simple.
It's simple. It's very easy to get lost in that and get so focused on what's in front of you rather than thinking big picture. And I think that's why it's important in all areas of life to think, we have these milestones or these moments in time.
Yeah.
But we also have a big picture, and what's the big picture and what's going to help us get there? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you think about business, Lachlan, like how many mistakes do we make in business? I know for me, I've made so many mistakes. If I have to count how much money I've spent on the wrong mentors and training, and just, it's unbelievable. I own 5 houses by now, I reckon.
Same.
But I've made a lot of mistakes in business, not just bricks and mortar business, but the entrepreneurial business as well, like trying to navigate that space. But I have to go, okay, that didn't work for me that time. What did I learn from it? Okay, what's my next step? I didn't just pack up and shut up and go, oh, well, I made a mistake, it's done. It's not that at all. So if guys liken relationships to business, right? If you're good at business and that's where you flourish, if you think about a relationship like your business, if you don't put time, effort, or investment in it, your business is going to go broke. It's that simple. And I talk about relationships, it's the business of relationships. If you don't put time, effort, or investment in it, it's going to go broke. It's going to go somewhere else probably. All right. So you've got to do the same thing you would do in your business with your relationship. Invest time. And when I say money, it's not funds. When I say investment, it's investment of time, investment of emotion, communication, like watering your garden, that type of investment. Also money helps.
Yeah, definitely. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. Time. If you had a business, you don't spend time on it. Like, who's going to run your business for you? No one runs it the same as you do. And if you run it well and you're not in it, you've got some really good structures that can be repeatable, that you've learned from mistakes and you've been able to implement them, that those things work, right? But it's taking control and error and mistakes for you to be able to develop those strategies. When you get better at relationships and with your partner, and you've learned and failed and learned and failed and learned and failed, then you know what strategies work and you just keep implementing them. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It's that simple. People make it so difficult. It's actually not that difficult.
For people who would love to work with you or just find out more about what you do, read your blog post, which I'll have in the link in the bio, where are you most active and where can people reach out to you?
Mainly on Instagram. I have workshops throughout the year as well that are coming up, so we'll keep an eye out for those workshops coming up. But if you DM me, send me an email, you can get me. So Instagram's dr.lurve, so Dr. Love. And emails just info@drlove.com, website's www.drlove.com. Anywhere there. I'm pretty good. My team and myself usually make sure that I get to my emails or my DMs, and just reply back. As you can appreciate, relationships don't discriminate, so they run across the board everywhere around the world, and everyone wants to be loved and loved. Literally, like, it doesn't matter where we're from. Everyone wants to have some type of connection that feels good.
And I think it's such an important thing to work on. I'm a massive believer, and you mentioned you've wasted, you've made a mistake, but you've wasted money on certain coaches and courses. Some of the best money I've ever invested and time is being on things that are going to improve my relationship. So anything around communication, understanding love languages, getting people just to even look externally at my relationship of where I'm not showing up in the way that I maybe think I am, has been extremely beneficial, because I don't want to be one of those guys who fucks up a relationship where it's on me. It's the things that I could have changed.
Yeah, I would say if you're a bloke and you've had maybe some past issues around relationships, like, be proactive. Like, if you do want to go into the dating or area, if you want to meet somebody, maybe be proactive now prior to doing that, and going, like, what worked for me and what didn't work in those relationships? Like, what are my attachment styles? How was I codependent, or was I even codependent? What behaviors did I have that probably contributed to the breakdown of the relationship? It takes two to tango, right? So what is it for you that was showing up that wasn't conducive to keeping the relationship there for a long time? So being proactive is important, whether you're single or in a relationship. Like you said, you can have someone come in and go, hey, we've got a pretty good relationship. We tend to get gridlocked around this topic. How can we work through just that? Everything else is good, but this is one topic, and sometimes it's the in-laws or the brother or the sister or money or finances. It could be just one area in relationship that you get gridlocked and you just can't work through it. Why would you allow that one area of gridlock impact the rest of your relationship when you can come and see somebody, a third party, and we'll go, all right, let's look at it. Let's lay it on the table, third party, helicopter view. Let's be realistic around this, remove the emotion, and let's work out a strategy that's going to work for both of you. And you're like, yep. And then you go on, and then you're not gridlocked in that. What you can do is take the strategy that found you in gridlock that worked and use it in other areas of your relationship, and you don't get gridlocked anymore, right? There's a transference of skill. So you're learning these skills and you're forever implementing in your relationship. So I would say for the guys, like, just being proactive around this. I think you're becoming a lot more educated around how valuable relationships are to you as men. Whereas in our history and past, we've always spoken about that women need relationships, and they need when you are a man and you have a really good woman or whatever sexual orientation you are, partner on your side, like, it does wonders for you. You'll see the men that are flourishing in their relationships, they flourish in business, in fitness, in health, in parenting. It's just they're kicking goals because they come home and they're just so comfortable. They're at peace, they're content. Like, men aren't really difficult creatures.
We're very, very simple.
Really simple. And it's not hard to have you feel content and comfortable. And women also need to learn this too, because we struggle. I know there's a lot of women struggling right now working out how they need to show up in relationships, because they've got to be kick-ass boss ladies, and they've got to be making money, and they can't have a man control them. And oh God, it's exhausting. But I think we go back to traditional roles, and there's something in that. And I'm not saying they have a place right now, and I think that calls for another conversation for us, Lachlan, but it's around the traditional roles of a man and woman. What do they look like in 2023? And what out of that can we take, and can we put in our relationships now that make it work? They worked before. Yeah.
Very much so. And it's a conversation that, you're right, that does need to be, it should be happening more. But it's, once again, it's there's so much fear in having that conversation. There's a lot of conversations that should need to be happening, but it's controversial. There's fear. There's people taking stuff out of context, and it's like, well, debating is the only way we're going to get through this, and we're never going to, I guess, have everyone agree on a one, I guess, ideal relationship. But if you can start making sense of it, see different varying opinions, and take what you feel is going to work for you, it's going to be beneficial.
Yeah. I think people need options. And I think it's going to be really important that when they, when you're going out and you're dating, or you're starting to date, or you've got a partner, is making sure you've got the same sort of values. Like, you really do think of life the same way. You don't want to be, with somebody that's forever going to be a battle, and every day is like you've got to, bang your own drum and try and get your point across, because, it's exhausting. That's not what relationships are about. You guys want to bounce off each other, have conversations, debate, maybe not agree on everything, but respectfully debate. That's what keeps the relationship alive. Yeah. So I think we could definitely have another conversation around how men and women are showing up in 2023, and some of those roles that, are a little bit like, do you open the door for a woman, or do you not? Do you pull her chair out still, or are you going to get, told off because she can pull her own chair out? Like, what's going on out there?
It's daunting. It's fucking daunting. That's for sure.
Pull the chair out, open the door.
I got roused on, this would have been 6 months ago, for opening a door for a lady. And I was like, fucking hell, like, righto, don't worry about it.
Yeah. And you're being a gentleman, like, and look, and that's why it's really important that you pick the right person you're with, because someone that you do that with will appreciate you for doing that. You opening the door makes her feel like a woman, and she's going to love you for that. And so that it's really important to be with a woman that can receive that type of attention and love, rather than shut you down.
Dr. Love, everyone, thank you so much for coming on. For those who really enjoy this episode, I've taken away so much, and I really can't wait to re-listen to like little segments and then start challenging it and thinking about it in my own way, and creating some actionable and implementable steps to improve my own relationships. But you can engage in the Spotify link and ask questions, because I'm sure we're going to have another conversation.
Shoot them through. If they've got questions, we can jump on another podcast and we can just go through them and see, we'll try and answer most of them if you want.
I think we just scratched the surface. Like, we covered a lot, but I think there's a lot of
anything that we wrote down, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I didn't throw that in the intro in the beginning. Yeah, for everyone listening, I had 3 like key areas I wanted to hit, and then Dr. Love's like, yeah, that's fine. We'll just go with it. And then we just went with it, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, good. All right, we can do that next time. It's fine.
Yeah, we've got the next one sorted.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for having me, Lockie. If you got any questions, any of the audience need to reach out, no problem. Just do that. DM's good.
Thanks so much for your time. And for everyone listening, in the show notes, you've got all the links, so you can just click in one click, and then you'll be able to check out Instagrams, websites, all of the fun stuff where the information is. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.